Just before this video starts, I should mention that I got many suggestions saying that I should try out a new style of videos, one that is more scripted and formed together so that the video isn't all over the place. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. This Awoken Devlog will be in a different style so it's easier to follow, so be sure to let me know if you like it. Also, if you're new, consider subscribing and joining the Discord as we just reached over 100 members. Hope you enjoy. Hello guys, Zyger here, and welcome back to another Awoken Devlog. Okay, so this week, unfortunately, I didn't have as much time as I wanted to. This is because I had to pick up a few extra shifts at work, so I was busy and tired because of that. Though I did manage to get a few things working and added some new features. So last week I streamed on YouTube, which by the way, if you join my Discord or turn post notifications on, you will be notified whenever I stream. Where all I really did was some boundary testing. So basically, I would spawn ridiculous amounts of enemies to see if my game could cope. And let's say my game managed to run 1,000 enemies on good FPS, roughly 500. And it even ran 10,000 enemies just on low FPS of 90. However, it didn't run 100,000 enemies as the game would crash and break, but that did give me an insight of what my game could do. But generally speaking, the stream was really enjoyable and everyone had a lot of fun, so I recommend you join the next stream. Anyways, other than that, I started to work on some dialogue. Now, dialogue is very important in my game as quests will play a large role in the game, as well as a storyline will be a must for me. So, I worked out this simple dialogue system that I actually used in my recent video when my dog chose how long I have to make a game. The game was called The Last Roll. The system is very simple and it relies on one controller object and the object that will actually have the dialogue being spoken. So for instance, I will have my text controller, let's call it oText. This will control everything, so the display of the text, the length, the box size, etc. Then I will have an object that will speak the dialogue, for example an NPC. Now this NPC is just a trigger for the oText instance to be created. Then upon the creation code of the object, in this case the NPC, I will write whatever text I want with a simple line that says text equals whatever you want. This is the simplest way that I could do it, and doesn't complicate the game, it looks nice and can easily be edited and manipulated. Now I am still considering on changing the background box for the text, but if I decide to do so, you will see the change in the next upcoming video. Anyway, let's jump into the code so I can show you how I've managed to do this. So right now on the screen you can see an example of how the dialogue looks in game. Now as I previously mentioned, this is easily editable and can be changed very quickly. Okay, so we are in Game Maker, and the first thing you need to create is a controller. Now mine is called oText, you can call it whatever you want though. We need to make a create event. Now this create event has some simple lines. First of all, it declares the speed of the text, the letters, which is set to 0 as this will be changed depending on what the text is. Then the text, now this is a temporary text, so for this instance I set it to whatever you want. The length, which will be string underscore length and then bracket text, which is right here. Text current, which currently is nothing, as this will once again also changed. Width and height, which is set to 0, and border, which is set to 10. Then you will need a step event. Now the step event looks very simple, so let me explain it. So letters plus equals speed, so this basically depends, the more letters the faster it is, that's what I've got it set to, however you can do whatever you want. Then text current will be string underscore copy, text one floor letters. Now what this means is basically the text that is currently being said will be decided upon the actual instance, such as our NPC. Then we will simply set the font, which for my instance is FNT underscore EX, however you can use any font you want, and once again this will have to be a font that you have in your game. Then I have a statement, so if the height will equal to 0, then the height will equal the string height of the text. This is just in case we get any errors and the box doesn't draw properly. And then we determine the width, which is also very simple as it's just a string width. And then we determine the width of the text, which is very simple as it's just a string underscore width of the current text. Then finally we will destroy it once it's done, so if letters are bigger or equal to the length, which means if we have finished the length and you press any key, so you want to finish, basically we will destroy this instance. Finally we will create a draw event, and in the draw event we will do something simple like this. So the first thing here is we set a variable of half fw. This basically lets us determine the width. Then we will draw the box. So I set my color to black, you can set this to whatever you want. My color alpha is 0.7, but once again, whatever you want. Then I draw a round text box. Now you can, once again, do whatever you want. I have my rounded, you don't have to. You can draw a sprite, it's completely up to you. If you want to use a rounded text box, I suggest you just copy this line. Basically, this just does some maths which determines what the border is like and how big it has to be. Then I will set the alpha to 1 once we're done. Finally, I will draw the text, so draw set text, I will set it to white, our font, I'll have it in the center, and I'll have it start at the top. Finally, I will draw the rest of the text, meaning that it doesn't go above or below the border. After doing this, we need our object. Now in my case, once I said I'm going to be using an NPC. So I have my old man here. Now you can trigger this in whatever way you want, but basically the only line you need is this. So which says with instance create layer text, text, which is what you want. Now text is the layer that I've got, which is right here. You can use whatever layer you want. And then finally I will set text to equal other.text and the length to equal the string length. Now what this basically means is I can go into my world and I can go ahead and click on my little character here. If I double click on him, I can click on creation code. Now in the creation code, all I need to do is make text equal and then whatever you want. In my case, I have this. However, once again, you can have whatever you want. Now let's say you want multiple lines. Let's just say you don't want everything cramped on one line. Well, you can do a simple /n like this, which will start a new line. Finally, say you want multiple different texts depending on the situation, which for example I have here. The first time you speak to this man, he will show you this text. However, if you completed his quest, he'll show you something else. Well, basically, you don't have to determine it on the creation code. I do it that way as it's easier. However, you can determine it in the actual code. So for instance, in this case, once you have already completed the quest, the text will say this thing. And that's basically it. It's very simple and really easy to interpret and really easy to edit. So let's move on to the next few things that I have done. The next thing I worked on was fixing some sprites. Basically, not everything is pixel perfect in my game, which makes the game look kind of off. Anyways, I didn't get far into fixing it, but don't worry, I will be working on that soon. Then I decided to actually get some AI to my bird, which at the moment would just sit on the chimney and do nothing. So firstly, I redesigned the sprite. I also added a new sprite for a flying animation, and finally I made a sprite for the bird feather and ensured that it was the same color. Basically, I want my bird to fly away if the player gets too close. Now this technique is used in many games and it makes the game feel nicer. I also wanted to make sure if the player attacks the bird, it would drop 1 piece of gold and it would create a feather particle to demonstrate that the bird has died. Now I've seen this multiple times in Terraria, for example, where you kill a bunny and it will have his remains be dropped as a particle. Kind of grim, but it once again makes the game feel nicer. So I managed to do that fairly quickly with a simple if statement to check if the player is too close. And if this does happen, I added some motion to the bird where it would move towards and out of the map. I also have had the bird change sprite to the flying animation and ensured that if the bird is outside of the map, it is destroyed so it causes no lag. The next thing I worked on was fixing some sprites. Basically, not everything is pixel perfect in my game, which makes the game look kind of off. Anyways, I didn't get far into fixing it, but don't worry, I will be working on that soon. Then I decided to actually get some AI to my bird, which at the moment would just sit on the chimney and do nothing. So firstly, I redesigned the sprite. I also added a new sprite for a flying animation, and finally I made a sprite for the bird feather and ensured that it was the same color. Basically, I want my bird to fly away if the player gets too close. Now this technique is used in many games and it makes the game feel nicer. I also wanted to make sure if the player attacks the bird, it would drop 1 piece of gold and it would create a feather particle to demonstrate that the bird has died. Now I've seen this multiple times in Terraria, for example, where you kill a bunny and it will have his remains be dropped as a particle. Kind of grim, but it once again makes the game feel nicer. So I managed to do that fairly quickly with a simple if statement to check if the player is too close. And if this does happen, I added some motion to the bird where it would move towards and out of the map. I also have had the bird change sprite to the flying animation and ensured that if the bird is outside of the map, it is destroyed so it causes no lag. So I should also mention that any sign in the game will be readable. Okay, I mean readable, okay. So you can go up to it, press E, and it will display some text. Now this will most likely point to a direction such as a city or a town, such as this one which points to Tundra Town. Now actually a viewer suggested to call the boss in this town Tundra, but instead I decided to use that and actually name the city after it. So the city is called Tundra Town. Now this still might be changed, but at the moment I'm keeping it as so we can refer to it more easily, I guess. So that's it for today's video. I know I didn't do much, but once again apologies for that. Either way, let me know if you enjoyed the video, particularly the different style of it. And thank you all for watching. Bye.